Welcome to tonight's episode of Elevating Stories of Climate Equity. I'm Sylvia Ewing, and I'm your host for this monthly series. Thanks for joining us for this special Earth Day episode. Tonight, we want to take time to be grateful for this planet we call home, and we want to explore what's needed to protect it and ourselves. We'll talk with a variety of community advocates and experts about opportunities in and around Chicago that can make the indoor and outdoor spaces we call home healthier. And some of it applies to the full state as well. Our guests are Adrienne Reynolds, grassroots educator at Garfield Park Community Council, Amanda Gurminga, Associate Director of Environmental Health at Elevate, Pastor Booker Vance, Policy Outreach Manager at Elevate, Gary Canine, Founder, Executive Director at 7 Generations Ahead, Lindy Wardlaw, Associate Director of Community Planning at Elevate, and Yami Newell, Associate Director of Community Projects at Elevate. They're not all going to be on at the same time, but they'll be on tonight. And we'll also take your questions later in the program. Let's get started. Our first guests are Lindy Wardlaw and Gary Canine. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you, Sylvia.
It's a pleasure. I'm going to ask each of you to tell us a little bit about the work that you do, and I'll start with Lindy. Lindy, what do you do?
Thanks, Sylvia. As you mentioned, I'm Associate Director of Community Planning at Elevate Energy, and I'm an urban planner by training, and I help communities, municipalities, counties, other place-based organizations in thinking about addressing climate at that community scale. How to address them, thinking about things from a policy standpoint and program standpoint, and being able to take those and connect them to the people that they serve in order to achieve climate goals. So that's kind of in a snapshot the work that I do.
Well, we'll learn more as we go along, but you're the coolest urban planner that I know, so that part's super exciting. And Gary, tell us about your work.
So I started off as a community organizer and counselor in a youth prison and a high school teacher and basketball coach. And then over 20 years ago, when all of the stuff happening globally with regard to the climate and other issues, I had this kind of crisis of conscience about, how are we going to pass along a better world to our kids? And my son at that point was 4 years old. He's now 31. And I thought, boy, if I don't do something about this, then I would have a credibility issue with myself. And so founded 7 Generations Ahead 20 years ago. It took a while to get it started before that. But essentially, we try to work with communities to help them become more sustainable and healthy. And so we have programs around farm to school across the state of Illinois. We have a zero waste schools program that works a lot in Chicago public schools and across the metro area. We're currently operating a program in collaboration with CPS called CPS Goes Solar, which I can share more about later.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of work in healthy food, in waste reduction, in energy, and then we've put together a lot of sustainability plans for local communities, and in some cases, we help drive the implementation of those plans.
Well, thank you, and we'll hear more about that as we go on. I'm going to come back to Lindy. What efforts are underway to make Chicago and the metro area a healthier place to live? And talk about your role in those efforts.
Sure. So just kind of talking about Gary, like I've known Gary pretty much since my early beginnings at Elevate. I started at Elevate back in 2004, which is a bit mind-boggling, but so heading on 17 years at Elevate. And what I really like about this work is that there are so many organizations and individuals kind of working in this space. And so my role in thinking about this at a city level or a county level, wherever the space that I'm working in, is really to kind of connect all those voices and all the stakeholders. So the experts in the room, like Gary and many, many others that I talked to, and really kind of connect those voices together. One of my most exciting projects I'm working on right now is working side by side with the city of Chicago, the chief sustainability officer, Angela Tovar, as well as a number of other folks with NRDC. And we are working on developing a policy that a net zero carbon policy for buildings in the city of Chicago. And that might sound like a lot of catchphrases, and it is if we don't do anything different.
Well, what does it mean if I'm a layperson and I don't know what net zero is
Sure.
from, net two? What does it mean?
Net two. That's funny. So essentially, we know when we look at emissions and the growing crisis in climate, we know from calculations that the emissions associated with buildings, the energy consumption in buildings in Chicago, and really the Chicago region, is right around 70%. So 70% of the emissions comes from buildings. And so we know that that's one of the most important things to address in order to reduce emissions. But this is where the challenge is that we don't have to convince the Garys in the world or any of the other amazing organizations. That's kind of preaching to the choir. And so what we're doing with the city is really trying to cast the wide net. If we're going to achieve the goals like the city's goals, or even the goal that President Biden stated today to reduce emissions by 50% by the year 2030. That you can't just say that and not do anything different. And so we are really trying to capture the ideas, the challenges that other people who may not always be in this space in Chicago, we're trying to really capture those conversations. And so as we start to think about what this policy looks like, we really need to understand how do we engage everyone else that's not already at this table? Where are the connections? What's going to resonate with them? What's going to, and how to, and talking to people that we might not have talked to in the past. We have to go beyond our comfort zone. And so we just wrapped up a phase of stakeholder engagement. And what was interesting is we said, okay, we'll do some stakeholder engagement. We'll do that from November to sometime in January. Well, we found out that, sometimes you have to take those project-centered timelines and turn them into people-centered timelines. And so we took the time to have the extra conversations when people suggested, hey, you should talk to this group or these folks over here. We took that to heart and really made an extra effort to cast a wider net constantly and keep talking and keep talking.
What did you learn, and what will you do or recommend be done with what you learned?
Well, we're not at the recommendation stage yet. The next phase is actually digging into what those policy details are. So we're going to take all that information and a smaller group of folks are going to be on a policy working group to kind of delve into those details. But what we've learned is that there are communications challenges out there. We really need to make the effort to connect the dots with folks. I think we all understand and have witnessed over all of our lifetimes the various inequities that there are across Chicago. And that's not going to change if we don't do anything. And so connecting those dots with folks and connecting those dots and finding out how are the ways that we can bring them into this same conversation, this climate space with us. And then we also know, it's great that, someone that lives in, I'm not going to name a neighborhood, but any neighborhood, you see solar panels on a house, that's great. But what about the homeowner in Roseland or the shop owner in Austin? How do we bring all those people to the table? And that's really some of the challenges we really have to address. There's a lot of technical assistance needs. There's certainly, we need to support all of this talk with money to do it. And so that's why I was really excited too by, the support that we're now seeing at the national level. I'm really excited to see where we go in the next couple of years with this.
Well, thanks. And I think we'll synthesize some of that a little bit later, but you're listening to people, finding out what they know and what they need, and then you'll be able to try to make those needs happen in a way that will be impactful for communities that are often not at the table. So we applaud you for those efforts. Gary, Lindy laid out a lot of important work, policy work at the municipal level. What role do you have in any of those kinds of efforts, or share a little bit about your work to make our space a healthier place to live?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, just to play a role like all of the other many organizations are hopefully going to do, and support Lindy and Angela and the whole effort to develop a climate action plan, to implement it, to secure resources, and to really push forward some of the bold policy initiatives that are going to need to be in play if we are actually going to meet the 2030 and 2050 greenhouse gas emission goal targets. And so playing a supportive role, enrolling our constituents, and helping them to connect the dots and move things forward. I mean, I think a lot of the answers are out there. I think, and Lindy addressed this earlier, I think it's bringing people along and it's engaging people. And that's not a small task at all. So that's one thing. Right now, a lot of our policy and implementation work with respect to the climate crisis is happening with Chicago Public Schools. We've been able to work with CPS over the past handful of years to incorporate 15 schools that have food scrap composting programs now, and we're working with Sandrine Schultz to scale that to a lot more Chicago Public Schools. And even though the removal of food scraps from landfills is a help in terms of combating climate change and greenhouse gas emissions, not as big a deal as buildings and energy and the 70% figure that Lindy referenced, but still an important piece. But the other piece through the Chicago CPS Go Solar initiative is we are right now doing analysis on every single Chicago public school building to determine its solar array capacity on top of the buildings, and also how much energy is being used in each of those buildings. And we're working with Sandrine collaboratively and a big team of a bunch of other experts in the for-profit, nonprofit world to develop a pipeline of solar installations at CPS schools. And that's only going to be able to meet some of the energy, the green energy needs, but then to also look at the best procurement options for off-site solar, so that CPS and the city of Chicago jointly can meet their greenhouse gas emission goal targets, which are aligned, I think, with what the president has just announced today. But the other piece for us is that we're building in systemic educational components to this. We have to train our young people, and particularly in Chicago, our low-income kids, our kids of color, need to be at the forefront of understanding what this renewable energy economy is all about. They need to understand the solar industry, need to understand what job opportunities there are, need to understand how it works. And so
yeah, I can see that. And we're inviting them in. When you invite them in and make space, the capacity to understand is there. I want to ask about your biggest concern or priority in the moment. You've talked a lot about young people. From my end, I see young people that are more concerned and more aware than many of us boomers, and they are frightfully concerned about climate change. But what's your biggest concern and priority in this moment? Is it the students? Is it other stuff?
Well, I think that we have to do a combination of putting more pressure, which the youth are doing a great job of, on our decision makers in our mainstream institutions, and and push them to move the needle on greenhouse gas emissions reductions. I think that's first and foremost. I think the other part of that, though, is to educate them and to make it easy for them to do that. And, I've talked to people, we work with a lot of different mainstream institutions, and the people that are making decisions around buildings and facilities and transportation just don't know what the best solutions and the best options are. And so I think we have to continue to play that role while keeping our youth engaged and providing youth with opportunities to light fire under our boomer butts, if you will, and to make things happen.
There's so many challenges, but it's exciting that people like you and Lindy are engaged in making change. I know you're also signed on to the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition as well, correct?
Yes.
Let me ask Lindy about her biggest concern for the moment, as well, as we're starting to come towards the end of our time together. It goes so fast, but just a couple more questions. Lindy, what keeps you up at night right now, besides your children?
They don't. I fall asleep. I've learned to sleep through their noise. I think so. I have a couple concerns. I think there's a lot of competing priorities to be able to fund this important work with so many other things. When I look at the city level, I mean, of course, COVID has dismantled budgets everywhere. But there's a lot of competing priorities, and I find that a challenge that's still, and I don't want to see another instance where the same neighborhoods in Chicago are impacted more drastically in comparison to other neighborhoods.
The same zip codes again and again.
The same zip codes, and the health inequities, heat waves going back to 1995 to COVID. It's the same zip codes. And what are we going to do? We have to stop this. And thinking about the goals that we do have, we absolutely have to engage everybody. It's an all hands on deck kind of thing. I think that's probably the biggest one. One thing that that helped me even think about the communications of all this and how do we do that is a long time ago, I really realized that the whole taking climate action and engaging everybody is what I call kind of the biggest community organizing project ever. We all have to kind of put that community organizer hat on and figure it out. And we're sort of, I feel like we're up against the clock now. We have to do this and figure it out, or we're not going to achieve our goals. And what not achieving our goals looks like, I don't want to see what that looks like, 10, 15 years from now.
Well, and I'll ask you both, I'll stick with you, Lindy, for this. What's the biggest message you want to drive home on Earth Day this year?
The biggest message I want to drive home, I know that the thing that excited me today were the messages at the national level and the commitments to the goals. And the biggest message I have is that climate change, we're past it's the green folks, the environmental folks. This is everybody, and this is it. And we really need to take the opportunity to figure out how we engage everyone else that's not at the table, and help people find their place in this solution. It's going to take all of us.
Great message. Gary, what's the biggest message you want to drive home on Earth Day for yourself and 7 generations ahead?
I think, it's all hands on deck. This climate crisis is not a spectator sport. We all need to get involved and to be doing something about it. And secondly, urgency. I like to make the sports analogy. When I coached basketball, I coached a different game when the score was 0-0 at the beginning of the first quarter. But if we're down by 30 with 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, then we need to up our strategies and shift things around. And I think that's the place that we're in right now. We are in a crisis, and a crisis needs to be treated like a crisis. And so it's going to be this task of how do we get all hands on deck and also act in a way that this urgency requires.
And leave us with a bit of inspiration or motivation. What's exciting about your work? If we were to talk with you a year from now, what might be new or what might you have accomplished?
Well, I have the privilege of working with youth in one aspect of our work. And anytime I'm working with youth, I get inspired by their intelligence, by their passion, by their motivation. And so in a year from now, I would like to see more of those youth at the forefront leading more of these initiatives, or at least being a part of them and learning as we go through this process. And I want to see real greenhouse gas emission reductions in our Chicago metro area. When we talk about equity, I had the opportunity to go to the UN Climate Summit in 2019 in Madrid, and I interviewed over 35 government representatives, many of them from Asia, Africa, and South America. And their biggest statement was, you folks from the richer countries like the United States are creating the mess. You are creating the most emissions, and it's the 2 billion plus poor and people of color in those three places that are going to suffer the most. And we have to keep living with that reality and act on it. And there's equity globally, there's equity locally. Sustainability is the biggest equity issue, at least in terms of global impact, I think. But it's something that we all have to come together to solve. And hopefully in a year's time from now, we're going to be on track with what the scientists recommend for greenhouse gas emissions reductions.
Thank you. He said the word scientists, not just guessing and messing around. Lindy Wardlaw, what motivates you on this Earth Day, excites you about your work and your positive headline?
Well, I think in terms of looking ahead to the future, I envision a Chicago well on its way to achieving its climate goals. I envision the policy work well underway, and we've not just checked off the boxes for the people who've been at the table a long time talking about this, but we're starting to meet the needs of the regular, everyday Chicagoan, and they see themselves as a part of this conversation.
Well, thank you so much. That is motivating and inspiring. Our guests have been, for this segment, Gary Canine, founder, executive director of 7 Generations Ahead, very thoughtful and committed speaker. So glad that you could join us. And Lindy Wardlaw, associate director of community planning at Elevate, an amazing woman who has lots going on to help all of us do better and be better in the future. Stay tuned, because we are going to have more of elevating our stories of climate equity and 2 additional guests coming up in a little bit. But first, we're going to pay attention to this. Thank you.
Interested in the benefits of solar energy without the ability to install solar panels? Community Solar allows participants to benefit from solar energy without installing panels on their own properties. This option is available for renters that have their own electricity account and homeowners whose home may not be a good fit for solar panels. Through Community Solar, you can subscribe to a portion of a solar system in your utility territory that is located off-site and receive credits on your electricity bill. Credits are based on the electricity generated by the solar system.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Corrado, and I manage public sector programs at Elevate. Educating people about the benefits of community solar is an important way to advance Elevate's mission of equity through climate action. In community solar, participants don't need to worry about maintenance, and they don't need to be homeowners, which makes solar an option for more people. I would encourage anyone interested in community solar to check out Elevate's website to learn more about our solar equity work.
If you are interested in learning more, please visit elevatenp.org.
Welcome back. I told you we'd have more guests, not all at the same time because there were a lot of names, but I'm delighted to continue elevating our stories of climate equity, the Earth Day special with Amanda Graminga of Elevate and Adrienne Reynolds of the Garfield Park Community Council. Thank you both for being here. This is exciting. Good to see you. And Adrienne, I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about the work that you do.
Well, thank you for having me on, actually. Currently, I am the Illinois Solar for All grassroots educator at GPCC. And GPCC is a community building organization made up of dedicated residents and allies working together to develop leaders and create opportunities and programs to build a better Garfield Park community. It became a nonprofit, independent in 2012, and our executive director is Mike Tomas, and the director of housing is LaShawn Kelly, and both are community residents, as am I. And I actually came on board mid 2020 for this campaign, and my focus is simply to educate the community on the benefits of solar energy and educate them on the Illinois Solar for All program.
Wow, and you started in the middle of COVID, so
yes,
that's a lot. Amanda, tell us what you do as Associate Director of Environmental Health at Elevate.
Hi, and thank you for having me. Yes, I'm the Associate Director of Environmental Health at Elevate. I'm a public health professional, so we bring programs to residents to have better health outcomes within the four walls of their home. So we're looking to make homes healthy and safe through our different programming.
Well, this year more than ever, home has been our safe place when we all found ourselves having to stay in. What goes into making a home healthy? And that's to you, Amanda.
Sure. So there are 8 elements of a healthy home. So we're typically looking to make homes dry, clean, pest-free, ventilated, as well as contaminant-free, safe and well-maintained, and then energy efficient is that last element of a healthy home. Those are all important aspects that we're looking at. We're typically walking into homes looking for areas in the basement, whether it's moisture coming into the basement from foundation issues or the roof line. But we're also looking to make sure that the combustion appliances in the basement are well ventilated. So there's typical areas that we look for making a home healthy.
And if you, Amanda, if someone is worried about the dangers in their home, what should they do if they're concerned about their home safety?
Sure. So getting your home checked out, typically getting your heating and cooling system checked on an annual basis is a good tip for any homeowner. Making sure you have working smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. And a lot of these are things that would be found in an energy assessment. So if your local utility company has an energy assessment that could be completed on your home, they'll look for those health and safety issues that might prevent somebody from receiving energy efficiency services, but it would also flag that to your attention. So it's a great place to start.
Well, thank you. And you mentioned energy efficiency. That just makes me think about Adrienne and the solar opportunities. Adrienne, what are the benefits of solar power, and how can residents trust that they're getting a good deal? Because there's been so many bad actors out there that have muddied the waters. But tell us what's good.
So I totally agree with you on that one. Some of the benefits of solar power is it reduces the carbon emissions, which greatly reduces how much money we spend on power every year. And then it's also an excellent investment in your home because there is a state mandated net metering program that a lot of people aren't aware of. There's a federal tax credit, and then the state has an adjustable block program that helps for the purchasing of renewable energy credits. And so those are some good benefits to it. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Hi, Garfield.
Also,
we hear your neighborhood talking to us. It's okay.
Also, with this Illinois Solar for All program, residents can build. There are 3 different programs under Illinois Solar for All. There's the distributed generation program, which helps income eligible households get access to solar installation through approved vendors. And what they do is they take some of that tax credit off so the person can get the installation at little to no cost. And then there's this community solar program, which is geared a lot of renters can take advantage of because they can't get panels. So what they would do is they would tap into an energy grid that the local or local utility area has panels, and they can tap into that. And then there's a third program for nonprofits and public facilities as well. So, and then if people don't qualify for the Illinois Solar for All program, there are other programs like Illinois Shine.
Well, that's great. So you're covering people who are renters, you're covering nonprofits, and you're covering homeowners.
Yes.
What are the benefits to solar power? Why should someone do it at any rate?
It is. It's definitely safe to use. And again, Amanda mentioned the carbon monoxide detectors and things like that. So solar panels will actually reduce the carbon emissions that you have in your home. And you can use solar power for different things. Like recently we did a program for how you can use solar panels in your garden. So you'd be amazed at how much you could use the solar energy for. And then by using the solar energy, you get a reduced rate with the energy company, so your bill goes down.
So, okay, well, that bill going down, that is something right there. Amanda, coming back to you, how does your work to make homes healthier also help the people who live there become healthier? Amanda?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So a lot of the reasons why my environmental health team enters a home is because of a health issue or preventing a health issue. So we might enter a home daycare looking for lead hazards in a home. We also work with asthma residents, and so we're residents that have asthma, and look for asthma triggers in their home. So by looking for specific issues in a home that might help their health issue or might help prevent a future health issue, that's really what kind of gets us to step into a home and really at the end of the day, we usually are able to assist and address the entire scope that we've developed once we've been in the home. And that helps with the health outcomes of the resident that we entered the home for, but usually the rest of the family as well. It creates just kind of a safe, healthy environment for everyone to live in.
Yeah, I've talked with some of the folks that you've worked with in the past, and people who have their asthma reduced. And when you help a child care provider, you're really helping an anchor in the community. I also wanted to follow up with you, Adrienne. In addition to Illinois Solar for All, what other work are you doing, and what are your priorities in Garfield Park and at the Garfield Park Community Council?
Garfield Park Community Council does a lot of housing programs. So we seek to promote affordable and healthy homes in Garfield Park. We offer a variety of resources and referrals to prevent residents from entering any housing crisis. So right now, that's very important with COVID. We have been increasingly focused on outreach initiatives related to environmental sustainability, including organizing community outreach and workshops to share resources, including home ownership topics, landlord and tenant issues, rental assistance programs, partnering with the City of Chicago for the 311 technical assistance, and some different COVID relief. So we're doing all of that in Garfield Park.
That is a lot going on in your community. People drive by, they think they know, but it is just an example of the rich solutions that people on the ground and in communities have to offer for their friends and neighbors. My daughter was involved with a poetry block party a few years ago. It was so much fun seeing young people come out to do poetry, and it was near the grounds of the Garfield Park Conservatory. So very exciting. I love that part of your neighborhood. I'm going to come back to Amanda. What's motivating you on this Earth Day? What's exciting you the most about your work?
What's really inspiring to me today is the movement for equity and kind of racial justice. A lot of my work, housing is a human right, and I believe that all humans deserve kind of access to these healthy and safe homes. And by bringing this programming to residents, we're able to stabilize families, neighborhoods, communities, just kind of home by home. So on this Earth Day, that is super important. The earth is important, the people that live on this earth, and that's kind of my angle on this work.
You're making me a little teary, and I know that you have, worked with and care about all of the diverse folks in our community, the, indigenous folks, native folks. I think that message is for everyone, right?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Amanda. Can you let us know if someone wants to reach you or to learn more about your work? If they're interested in working with you, what should they do?
Sure, absolutely. Again, I really recommend an energy assessment. That's definitely a great starting place to understand kind of some of the basic health and safety needs in a home. And that's by reaching out to your local utility. Additionally, we have information at elevatenp.org, which is the organization that I work at Elevate.
Thank you, because we love
Thanks.
that. That's why you're elevating our stories of climate equity. Thank you, Amanda. It's such a joy to work with you and to see you and for you to take time out of your family time to help us get inspired for Earth Day. Adrienne Reynolds, thank you so much. What's motivating you on this Earth Day? What excites you most about your work?
Helping others excites me. Improving quality of life excites me. So this role really helps me achieve all of that. And I just love, like you mentioned earlier, a lot of people don't understand or know the resources in this community. So I really, truly enjoy being able to spread that information and resources with my fellow neighbors.
And if people want to reach you or learn more about Illinois Solar for All, what should they do?
You can reach me at, you can email me at adrian@gpcommunitycouncil.org, or you can visit the Illinois Solar for All website, which is illinoissfa.com. Or you can just go to the Garfield Park Community website. It's gpcommunitycouncil.org for more information and any upcoming events, because we still do virtual workshops.
Well, thank you so much. We've been speaking with Adrienne Reynolds here, grassroots educator at Garfield Park Community Council, who also explained Illinois Solar for All, and Amanda Gurmiga, Associate Director of Environmental Health at Elevate. That's elevatemp.org. And they both coordinated on their blue today. I appreciate you. Looking good, sounding good, and doing better. Thank you so much. Stay tuned, our viewers. We're going to have 2 other guests coming up. Thank you so much, Adrienne and Amanda. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we are back, and I am so glad that you're with us, and I'm particularly delighted to continue this Earth Day special with Yami Newell and Pastor Booker Vance. The theme of this series is all about elevating our stories of climate equity, and these 2 folks can really address that. Yami Newell, tell us what you do, and tell me what climate equity means to you and how you address it in your work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hello, Pastor Vance and Sylvia. Thanks for having me. My name is Yami Newell. I work as the Associate Director of Community Resources at Elevate, and I have the pleasure of heading up a team of folks who are engaged in grassroots energy education opportunities in local communities across the state of Illinois. From Chicago to Central Illinois, all the way to the southern tip down in Carbondale. So we have a far reach. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but if you've ever attended any of our events, we have a very passionate and enthusiastic enthusiastic group that really motivate me every day in the stories that they're bringing back and sharing with us internally.
And give your description or definition of climate equity, and what do you and your team do to address it?
Absolutely. Part of the strategy that we employ around grassroots energy education and engaging people around different programs and tips, from no cost to even slightly more investment, slightly higher investments, and making energy efficiency and renewable changes to their homes. How does that intersect with climate action, climate equity? The way that our team handles it is that we are immersed in the communities that we serve. We're listening to the stories that people are sharing with us around their concerns about energy. We are learning what they have questions about, and we are sharing those stories internally as well as with our other community partners to bring those stories to the table where they have historically been left out.
That's really been a theme. That's been a theme for today, bringing people to the table, making new tables, and I think it's changing what people think about when they think about climate or environmental work. Pastor Vance, I'll ask you the same question. Tell us a little bit about your work and what climate equity means to you and how you address it.
So yes, my name is Pastor Booker Stephen Vance. I'm a policy manager at Elevate Energy, and that scope of that work is not only doing public policy, but it's also engagement in communities, particularly with not only lobbying, but the impacts of lobbying and how we as Elevate begin to address some of the needs and concerns and of the community. And so I'm kind of a utility guy, but my primary work is doing policy.
Well, thank you. And we're doing our public education here in this space. We appreciate you. And with that in mind, there's a couple of callers, so we'll take one and see if we can answer their questions. Hi, caller.
I have music in the background, but can you hear me?
Yes, please say your question. We can hear you.
My question is, I just want to know what people can do on a daily basis regarding energy efficiency and being conscious about socially economic issues. What can we do today? Because I think that's concern is that there's so much going on and people are overwhelmed. What is maybe a 1, 2, 3 things that people can do?
Perfect. Thank you for calling. I'll translate that just in case the listeners at home had a problem. Yami, I'll come to you. That's right up your alley. What can people do today? 1, 2, 3 things to combat climate change, to make their homes more efficient. What can regular folks do?
Sure. Thank you for the question, Sylvia and caller. I would say low-hanging fruit, energy efficient light bulbs. There are programs to get them into your home for free through your utility company, whether you are serviced by Ameren, Illinois, or ComEd. You can call them and request an energy efficiency kit, or what they call a direct install, where you can install your own light bulbs. They have power strips in them, low flow shower heads. These are all free to you, and you can install them yourself. And so that's one thing that you can do.
Wait, I can install it? Even I can install it?
Even you can install it. Reaching out to one of our community resource coordinators. We have resources online where we're giving out tips and how to access programs near you. So follow us on Facebook if you're not following Elevate's community event. It's our new community space virtually. We are hosting a fireside chat and ask every week where you can talk to community resource coordinators from Central Illinois, from the Chicago area, from the suburban region. We host regular guests talking about local programs, how people can get involved. It's at noon on Thursday, live on Facebook, so please join us there if you haven't already. You can also contact us on our community resource hotline. We have a toll-free number that you can use and call us and get in touch with anybody, myself, anybody on our team, 833-204-1992. I'll repeat that, 833-204-1992. We're in the process of updating our email. So I just want to give that really quickly. You can reach us at outreachteam@elevateenergy.org.
Thank you. So new branding, but you can still reach the folks for this free information. I think there might be another caller. Are you there, caller? Can you share your question, please?
Yes, I'm here.
What's your question?
Yes, I know that Gary mentioned something earlier about educating the youth. How is the education of climate equity and solar and the importance, even the importance of Earth Day, tailored to the youth and made relevant to them? Because I knew nothing of this. I didn't even know of Earth Day when I was a kid. So what steps are you all taking to educate them?
Thank you so much. That is an excellent question. Yami, I'll stay with you on it. And then Pastor Vance, he knows a lot about the youth, but let's start with you. What can we do to educate young people or make space for them? Because I think they're pretty smart as well.
Absolutely. Those are part of the stories that we're receiving in the field as well. Young people have very powerful voices and very creative ways of communicating with each other and with adults. We tend to reach out to them most in our rural communities, but we're expanding that capacity here in the northern part. When I say here, I'm located out of northern Illinois. However, we want to hear more. We want to hear more from young people. We are opening that dialogue to begin to share those stories. They are very fast learners. They are very tech savvy. And so we're continuing to learn a lot from young people in this space. It is the birthday of Earth Day. So happy Earth Day, everybody. It is the 50th year anniversary of Earth Day, as someone on my team shared with me earlier this week. And so Earth Day is relatively young. However, young people have really taken up the movement and are carrying the conversation of climate action and climate change.
Pastor Vance, how would you answer that question about engaging young people, making sure that this is front of mind for them?
So we're just real thankful for the leadership that young people have provided. Before the Trump administration, we saw the young people really raising the voice of climate change and getting out front for many of us as adults and keeping the conversation real and vibrant and focused. We're finding now, as you saw in this last year, post George Floyd, that we've seen again the young people raise the conversation and keep the energy going. And that continues to be a very important part of what we're about. Lindy Wardlaw, who was on here earlier, had a couple of focus groups with young people trying to get some sense of their voice and what goes on. And that needs to be happening, as you mentioned earlier, Sylvia. How do you make room? We have to make room for the conversation because some of us as old hats and old fogies, we kind of get caught in our own rhetoric. But these young people are raising the concern and this issue of raising a aspirational kind of goals for us are not a challenge, but for young people, they get excited about the goals that we set this morning with Biden talking about how we're going to get carbon down and how there's going to be a goal for 2030 and followed up. For young people, that really re-energizes them. And for us, some of it, I don't know what 2030 is going to look like. I'm trying to get past 2021. So, but that's the dynamic. We're giving them hope and aspiration, and they're really getting energy from that.
Well, thank you. Let's see if we can take one more caller in the time that we have. Caller, share your question, please. Thank you.
Thanks. My question is more related to access to clean water. I know there's a significant issue with lead pipes in the city of Chicago. And I was just wondering what's being done at a city or state level to address the lead and water issue.
That is a perfect question, and I'm going to stay with you, Pastor Vance, on it. If you heard it, it was about how we can address the lead in the water. What are your thoughts briefly?
So please
and
understand.
Any policy initiatives?
Sure. This has got 3 levels to it. There's a national level, there's a state level, and there's a local level. And for order to get the kind of funding that we need to replace the pipes, particularly in Illinois, Illinois has one of the most complex and lead pipe problems that exist in the country. But those 3 entities have to work together and put together a fiscal kind of plan to make that happen. Our mayor had promised some realities, but they haven't come to fruition. But I do a lot of water distribution, particularly making sure water gives to people who are without water, who've had water shutoffs, so they can do as an interim kind of solution. But the real game is that we're going to have to really replace all of these pipes, and we're going to create jobs. We're going to have to be able to, again, network and work between those 3 entities in order to make this happen. And we have to be ready to make changes.
And just staying with that, are there policy or other initiatives that people can learn about to make these changes or to make the systemic change that's needed?
Sure. So currently there's a lead water bill that's in Illinois, and that's coming up in the next 30 days. And so if you ask your legislators about the lead water bill, they'll know something about it. We also are promoting it through Elevate Energy to keep you informed, and that's going on. And then again, Biden has really opened up the door in the sense that we had 4 years of kind of freeze. Now we have an open door, and really us as environmental folk need to take advantage of this. We were spending our time but kind of being quiet. Now the goal is to be out and be engaged and be organized.
Well, speaking about being out and being engaged, Yami, that is your work. What's the relationship between a healthy environment and the health of residents? And how does your work impact some of that?
Sure. Thank you for that question, Sylvia. Our team is mainly engaged in talking about the programs that are accessible to people right now, that they can call and participate in or go online. And they're sharing that information very directly in our community education events, so that we can have a larger impact on climate change. However, we're already here. It's 2021, right? A lot of the damage as far as the environmental impact and the public health impact on individuals, families, increases in cases in asthma, increases in cases in lead poisoning, that's already happened. And so how do we restore? How do we, get better going forward? Those are conversations that my team is actively engaged in on the ground and within Elevate, and that we're excited to continue to have because they're not new.
Well, thank you. I think we're coming up to the end of our time. You are so great. Promise that you'll come on again and say more. I know that the outreach number is 833-204-1992. ElevateMP.org. There's a fancy menu, a lot of things we talked about you can find. Thank you, Pastor Booker Vance, for your wisdom and participation. Thank you, Yami Newell, the next generation of leader. And thank you for joining us for our special Earth Day episode of Elevating Stories of Climate Equity. Thanks to all of our guests. I won't name them all, but you'll see them in the credits. And thank you to the callers and our partners at CAN TV and outreach partners at the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition. We hope our show tonight helped highlight opportunities for keeping the environment around you healthy and safe this Earth Day. Thanks for watching and see you next time. I'm Sylvia.